Well, hello again. Here we are. It's morning for me, so good morning. We're going to continue the join number two. Um, there's some interesting points they bring up here. We're coming into, again, some more upstrokes with the B's and the K's and whatnot. Uh, are your joins and letters blending halfway? We discussed that a little bit last session with that H, how that's kind of beautifully um, goes halfway, and it kind of makes that line right there, which is nice, just visually. I don't think that's about flow necessarily, but here they really describe it. Uh, you want to join about halfway up, avoid it right at the bottom. You just get these burp, 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 burp. Again, I'm trying to avoid all this loops and just seas of strokes like that. Avoid scoop and loop. That whole thing. That just becomes, again, that's what we're trying to avoid. Ooh, how's the ink flowing? The ink's flowing okay. So, are you joining LB and K with a single line? So, something to watch out for. Again, they're the single line. They're worried about the loops. That's the single line part. But let's begin. A, isn't that nice? Up and about halfway. E. Yep, I should be doing the. See, I do that, don't I? Every single time. That's okay. Just how I did it last time. Hope everybody's doing well. It feels like I'm getting some momentum with this. It's just easier to start and take that time to do it. My loop is a little different than that. But here you got that same, notice that same line there as the H. And I'm a little off on there. And it's getting the same thing with the K. Gotta go back and catch the jot. See how it kind of defines that halfway. And then halfway is different than that shoulder line here. Guess I could probably make paper with like 30 or 40 index marks. I think you remember that from when you're in school with that. I could even see a second line. Just as we learn. I don't suggest at this point writing on lineless paper. What you can do, excuse me, is use a rule to make a ruler to make pencil lines, and then erase the pencil lines when you're inked. Do let the ink dry for a couple of minutes though. See if I can do this about halfway up into it. Let's see if I can make that nice. It's in there somewhere. Not be too critical today. Let's make today a kind day, brah. That's got a little weird. Oh, that's way too tall. That's okay. Again, just noting what I'm going to do different next time. Sleep. Okay. Dreams of sleep. Oops. Lost focus there. Ooh. But I like that they have the self evals. I mean, again, it's actually a thinky puzzle, and it's kind of cool from that standpoint. It's not. Yeah, you kind of want to use muscle memory and feel it out and get into a flow, a feel, but there's things to think about. Joins one and two are used here. Dotted lines indicate joins three through eight. So they're going to do some whole language here, but by doing that, excuse me, by doing that, we're getting hitting some stuff we haven't really visited yet. That's okay, sometimes it's okay to get thrown in the deep end a little bit. Again, we're not writing a resume here. So there'll be some familiar joins and a couple of not so familiar joins. But the thing is, you'll know what to do with them. That's not too bad. Again, those numbers are just for the classes, or just to kind of help you see that there aren't that many. The S, now the S, see, that's where you get that from. Now they don't, can't tell if they're joining there or not. It seems like the join is the right move. They just had the one little dot there, which I don't think was sufficient. No, catch those. Yeah, since there they joined the O and the ooh, but I did that loopy join. That's not what I meant to do. It just I just kind of came off model there. It doesn't look terrible, but I think it does. It's going to get in the way. It looks a little schoolhouse, I'll admit. You can see the why the round hand, why the loop stuff works the way it does. It does flow, but if it flows too hard and it just goes into mush, what's really the point? Being a little slower and more deliberate is good. Excuse me. So I did lift there. I didn't do as much of a join. Um, it looks like there is a join. It needs a little more than that dot, but sometimes you just got to make the choice. Instead of taking the shot, there, see, there's that little dot. That's the because we haven't had it before, and that's the trying to be a perforated line, but there's just not the room for it. Interesting that they start us off here, so we're not directly underneath. So they're taking the training wheels off a little bit. Ooh, could have left maybe a little more room there. Yeah. No, I'd like to get that. I'd like to get the R right. It's a little odd. I still probably, in my writing the last time I did choose to lift and separate on my R's, like a 18-hour bra. But just, it was one of those, I just thought it was for clarity's sake. So I'm a little off model there. Look at me not talking. Ooh, from which. That's fancy prepositional work. I tend to do that. Yeah, it was just because I learned it in English class, and I mean, I guess it's really from the Latin form. It has to do that, but it gets a little stilted. But it's sometimes fun to. I just kind of like the grammar puzzle. Whoa, I am so far off on that. That was bad. Let's do that one over again. So I started talking. Clean that up. Let's see up a little bit. From which comes. One I do like though is the impersonal pronoun one. Uh, and unfortunately, it makes me sound like a little Lord Fauntleroy, but it's practical, because it's not an accusative. It's, one does this. It's not you do this. I'm not saying you personally do that. I'm saying people do that. Uh, Oops, that R. See, that R is that's gonna get me. We got another R coming up to play with, so Oh, I went into the two-stroke E, but that's kind of fun to do sometime. Oh, did you see though how I phoned it in at the end? It's that you're not done till you're all the way done. So I should watch that. Oops. I remember Dan Diver Alert Network did a study. This is a number of years ago. They audited people's dive computers, and there's a thing called a safety stop you do in recreational diving. It's essentially it's a decompression stop. That's not it's optional, or it's not an optional. I'm going to say it's not obligatory. It's not uh, you, you know you have an obligation in some plans where you have to do it. Uh, but what they did is they looked at the ascent rate, and you're supposed to ascend slowly. Uh, but at the safety stop, which is at 15 feet or so, and I'm not going to get into that, but so there's a shallow depth of about 15 feet, and you're supposed to sit there for about 3 minutes and then come up to let nitrogen out and then come up slowly. But people would ascend slowly for most of the dive, but then after safety stop, they would kind of decide, well, the dive's basically over, and would just sort of shoot up to the top way faster than they should, and which is funny because that's where it's more sensitive. Is the there's more change in the bubbles per foot at a shallower depth, and that's that thing about just it's not over until you're all the way done, like 5 hours after the dive. Just one of those, like where people trying to shovel putts in on a gimme on a golf course and screwing up, shoveling a putt in. Like, oh, it's only a foot away. I'll just kind of rake it in there with my putter and screwing it up. Set it up, finish it, then get casual. Two strokey, just because of how we're connected to T on that. Um, Could have gone down. I do like connecting to H with the cross stroke of the T, though. I think that's kind of cool. Now, the stuff to the left here, that text to the left, that stuff's cool. It's not really about handwriting itself. I mean, it's the history of paper and stuff, and that's cool too. But it's not our, and what we're writing. It kind of covers the stuff we're writing. Uh, excuse me, but it's not essential to writing like the highlighted parts there, which are the advice. So I'm glad that they put it there. But you also don't want to have to wade through too much. And it is kind of fun that they made the single stroke E because of where that joint is coming in. Single stroke E because of where that joint's coming in. Yeah, if you wind up joining into the middle of the E right here, then that's a single stroke. Again, that nice kind of consistent line there that they make where that I like that. Excuse me, I am sorry. You don't need to hear that, and I don't have a cough switch on this mic. It's a headset mic. It's a very inexpensive teleconferencing kind of mic. Hi, my name is Cindy. How can I help you? Oh, have you tried turning it on and off? Take a minute to rest that hand. That helps. Tap, 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 tap. Find it. Start again to have us offset. Whoops, I'm a little off there. That's all right. That R, I am going to have to work on that R just to make it really pop. A little low on the H there. There's that line, but see how low I came in on that? And then they're coming up into the E with the single stroke E, into the T. See, not my favorite right there. I don't, that's not what I want it to look like. See how that, yeah, but I got to get more crisp on that, more deliberate, I think, between my loops and my strokes on that. Ooh, back into that R. I'll crack that R eventually. Now here, obviously we don't have, because we're the type of stroke we're doing, the type of join we're doing, we just don't have that option to make that line. Here we kind of do, which I missed my opportunity. I missed my opportunity. Ah, that's all right. There's more opportunities. Boom. I do like that. So I should again cross stroke, then downstroke. I want to say that I was just doing that to highlight it. And I suppose, whoa. See, that's what happens when I'm thinking about this and this. And I didn't hit in the game. That one was so egregious I had to do it again. Gotta go back and catch that dot. Oh, see what I did there? Let's try that again. I wasn't looking at the model. I should have probably looked at it. So I think it's a stylier model anyway. So the R is what it is. The T though, dot coming to the cross is a two-stroke E. Uh, not a great example, but did you see how the join changes it? Um, but I think it's a cooler look actually, and I just like the flow better when we get there. Get the flow back. I need to. That's me needing to lighten up on myself a little bit. That isn't constructive. D's a little short. We don't want that. Don't want a short D. Oops, that I did not mean that. And soon I started amusing myself, and look what happens. All because of my immaturity. Putting that up. Said that's I'm all over. Okay, so I'm probably feeling one a little longer today, and it's the talking. Okay, I get a chance with the H. Perfect. I'll take it. Ugh, yeah, do not like that. I did better on the last one. Sometimes it happens. A little step back. I'm going to join up top here. Oof. I guess I could put a little bump in there, but I don't think it's needed. don't think they do. So I should still follow the, okay, the T. Now here, if you notice, I think they're just showing us both types. Because you got a T to an E. So this, they're using the cross T. Sorry, yeah, the low to low. Okay. Option may prefer to join into X with join number 2 uh, from low to high, uh, as opposed to join number 1 where you're going. Well, they're kind of doing about the same thing. They could be a little more clear on that, couldn't they? Maybe it's just the swoopies. A little swoopy. Swoopy. You know, notice how they put it up. They gave you that upswing of that upstroke on that N. I think that helps it not become again kind of just part of the mush. It really defines that N. Same thing with the M. I'll look into those stroke options a little better. I should take more notes. Maybe I'll do a round 2 after I do that. Boop, boop. Yeah, you kind of do that back and forth to accentuate that M there with the upstroke. Here we go. Now we get to do it free-handed. Look at that. I got a little smudgy smudge. Not used to getting those. Oops. That's a little, I didn't like that at all. Swoop up into the M. Swoop up into the M. My hand gets kind of more shaky. It just doesn't look confident. That's where the flow will help, I think. Same thing with Sumi, the brush painting, where you've got to have just these kind of confident strokes. They actually work from the wrist, or I'm sorry, from the arm. They not from the wrist, but they work from the arm. But it's about flow in terms of you've got to make your strokes sort of confidently, from what I understand. You know, I've played with one of those brushes. I'm not, I don't do Sumi, but played enough to go like, oh, okay, I understand. Not that I can execute it, but I get what they're saying. So hopefully bring that into this, you know, and it's like here we do use our wrists. We don't use our, it's not so much fingers and arms a little bit much because we do rest. Uh, a nice, another crisp little accentuated bloop to, I think, set that off. Okay, here they're giving us a little bit of swoopies. I think that's the difference. To see the swoopy, which is like you're coming into a stroke point as opposed to that very more linear style of the join. Mash it. Got it. That's, I think, what they're doing is the swoopier version. It's early. What do you want from me? Ham sandwich. So yeah, that swoop, you know, unlike that linear, the swoop up is coming into that upstroke. Uh, you know, which kind of works with the joint you're talking about with M and N and R, where an X, you know, where you make kind of that point. It's strange on the X because the X doesn't natively have that. You know, that's a little odd. So I think that's why they talk about the options. But that's the thing, you have options. There's styles to it, and there's strategies to how you want to deal with stuff. Maybe you're uncomfortable or you just can't get one to look right, so you can use another style. where you just find the change from the fluid E's and A's into a hyperlinear X. Maybe that just doesn't feel right to you. So there's different things you can do, and sometimes you do it for clarity, sometimes you do it for style, sometimes you do it for flow. They all kind of meld together after a while. All right. Well, that's about 25 minutes. Maybe we're getting a little longer than usual, but I think it was a good page there. So that is really our join number 2, and we will be moving on to join number 3, much shorter tomorrow, and then join 4. Notice they're moving us pretty quickly since you're in the flow, they're moving us right into whole language. We will be discussing the two-stroke E. That's an exciting page. Oh boy, that's my life. That's exciting, huh? Yeah, so we're gonna move on, and things are gonna really start flowing. But I appreciate your time. I feel like the momentum's really coming about now. So that's cool, and I appreciate your time. Have a good day, and I will see you tomorrow.